Larry, the father, backs the merger between Skydance and Paramount. So now, inside of Larry Ellison's family portfolio, you have the Skydance production company, the Paramount production company, Paramount Plus, Showtime, Nickelodeon, MTV, Comedy Central, CBS News. This is a deal paid for by Larry Ellison. The original company, paid for by Larry Ellison. But in addition to that, what is also part of his portfolio is TikTok, the largest financial stake out of any of the private companies that are part of the consortium that owns it, all of TikTok's data, and the proprietary algorithm. That is a media empire, and you would call this in the private sector, in business terminology, this is what's called vertical integration. Vertical integration. And what that means is that every step of the supply chain is controlled by one company. The media is created by a studio. So they go into a literal studio with cameras and lights and a set and all of that in Hollywood, and that is owned by Larry Ellison. Paramount and Skydance have the actual studio. And then once they make the content, they will license and distribute it. That is also owned by Larry Ellison. They control the licensing of it. They control the distribution of it to the various networks and other companies. They also then now own the television stations that will air the shows, the television networks, the streaming platforms that will distribute them, so it gets onto Paramount Plus, Showtime, and they even now own the social media company, where the content inevitably will wind up also, and where it might be advertised too. So every step of the way, Larry Ellison owns it. The studio, the licensing, the distribution, the television networks, the streaming channels on digital, and also even a social media company too, including its data, where it's literally hosted on the back end, its algorithm, and in terms of the governance of the company too. That's what we're talking about. And this is all owned by a pro-Israel Jew that has a personal relationship and friendship with the Prime Minister of Israel. Again, Netanyahu's family vacations on Ellison's private island in Hawaii. Larry Ellison has donated more money to Israel's military than any other private citizen. Larry Ellison even convinced Arnon Milchan, a Hollywood producer, to drop his Jewish lawyer so that Netanyahu could retain him for his defense in his corruption trial. That's the extent of their relationship. There's another dimension to this too, which is the role of government, which is the role of government lobbying. How did Larry Ellison come to acquire TikTok? Because of the intervention of Donald Trump. Twice. It was Donald Trump in 2020 who raised the issue of Chinese ownership of TikTok. You might remember this. It wasn't a new conversation where Washington talked about banning TikTok in the United States. That conversation started 5 years ago when TikTok was growing rapidly in the United States the first time. And it was in 2020 when the deal was, for the first time, all of the U.S. data owned by TikTok would be hosted on Oracle. That happened 5 years ago. It was in Trump's second term. Again, his close personal friend Larry Ellison. It was in the second term that Trump, as part of a wider trade deal between the United States and China, had China compel ByteDance to sell TikTok, at least its American business, outright to Larry Ellison's company, Oracle, and to transfer the algorithm exclusively to Oracle so that it could be retooled for its American side of the business. That happened through government. That happened through Larry Ellison's personal connections to President Trump and his support of the Republican Party through lobbying, I'm sure through other political connections. The role that the Republican Party played in... Looks like the stream went down for a minute, but I think we're back. Let me let it run for just a minute and then I'll resume. I caught it out of the corner of my eye. I saw the live chat going crazy. Israel doesn't want you to hear this. Isn't that interesting? Last night we had some connection issues. Tonight, it's not on my end. I'm totally connected. I have all that right in front of me. Something's going on with Rumble. They don't want you to know. All right, I think we're good now, but I'll keep an eye on it. So I'll resume. I'm not sure where I cut off. But picking up on... It was actually a nice place for there to be a break because I was transitioning to today's news. So the reason this is all in the news today and this week is because earlier in the year, Skydance and Paramount made an offer at around $23 per share to buy Warner Brothers Studios outright. And the reason they did this is simple. They want to acquire Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers is considered the crown jewel of Hollywood. They have the most prestigious library of content. They own HBO and HBO Max, including some of the hottest shows like The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, among other things. Warner Brothers has an actual Hollywood studio and distribution and relationships with movie theaters. So after Skydance acquired Paramount, they immediately then made an offer for Warner Brothers. If they are successful in acquiring Warner Brothers, we keep dropping. I don't know what's going on with our connection. We keep losing connection with Rumble. Can Rumble handle the traffic? What is going on? I don't even know what that is. My internet is fine. Something is happening at Rumble that it's getting really irritating. I can't deal with the interruptions here. The good thing is we're recording it, so if there's issues, I'll just upload the whole video. But I think we're back again. Larry Ellison doesn't want you to know about this. All right, it looks like we're back. It's hard to keep going when it's cutting out. All right, well, I guess I'll resume. So, where was I? Earlier in the year, as I said, after Skydance acquired Paramount, they then started to make a play for Warner Brothers. They offered them a lot of money. And after Warner Brothers received interest in Paramount trying to acquire their studio, they just put it up for sale. They put the whole business up for sale. They said they wanted to receive multiple offers. They were going to hold an auction for it. And then enters Netflix. Now Netflix wants to buy Warner Brothers. In other words, the interest from Skydance Paramount triggered an auction. Now Warner Brothers is simply going to sell itself. The owner of Warner Brothers wants to sell it outright. And this is where it brings us to today. It looks like Netflix and Warner Brothers have inked a deal. Netflix is going to acquire Warner Brothers for, I believe it's $72 billion. And now Skydance Paramount is going to try to mount a hostile takeover. This is a story about this today from NPR. It says, quote, Paramount Global has sweetened its offer to acquire Warner, offering an all-cash deal valued at $108 billion to take over the parent company of HBO, Warner Brothers Studios, and CNN, among other notable properties. It would appear to significantly outstrip the deal, worth $83 billion, that Netflix and Warner announced last Friday, although that agreement is solely for Warner's streaming service and studios, not its other assets. If that deal were to go through, CNN and other cable channels would be spun off. Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison and his son David, the movie producer and founder of Skydance Media, took over Paramount this summer. It is the parent company of CBS, Paramount, the Paramount Plus streaming service, and more. Combining with Warner would let them create a Hollywood behemoth to take on Netflix, the world's largest streaming service. The Ellisons are also mindful of other major
I guess get in the
movie
car.
and
I
TV
don't know.
streamers,
I'm
particularly
guessing.
Amazon, Apple, and Disney, which bulked up a few years ago by acquiring most of Fox's entertainment assets. Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos told investors Monday that he had anticipated a counterbid from Paramount and that he wasn't phased. The deal, he said, was done. Larry Ellison is a donor, informal advisor, and friend of the president. David Ellison made 2 key hires at CBS, specifically in its news division, to ensure that it will be perceived as less adversarial to Trump. A conservative former think tank chief has become its new ombudsman to review complaints. And Barry Weiss, founder of the Free Press, has taken over the news division as editor-in-chief.
See, if we can't do this,
leadership paid
this is a
$60
fucking
million
big
to
wash.
settle a lawsuit filed by
My
Trump
opinion.
against CBS News.
If we can't do what we need to do in this fucking shit.
Flimsy. The Netflix announcement stirred instant opposition from a handful of U.S. senators in both parties. Trump was non-committal in remarks about it on Sunday. So that's where we are today. Skydance Paramount launched a bid to take over Warner Brothers. Again, their control over Hollywood would be absolute. So Warner Brothers put it up for auction, and Netflix outbid Paramount. They did better. They offered $82 billion for half of the company, or a part of the company, for its studio and for its streaming service, not its other assets like the cable news channels and other networks. Now, as it stands right now, Warner Brothers is selling itself to Netflix. Netflix says it's a done deal, open and shut, they have it. Here is the rub, however. In order for the deal to go through, it will need regulatory approval from the Trump administration.
Dude, I fucking looked at the lights, bro. I didn't see it.
It will have to be approved under certain antitrust
oh my
provisions
god, the same
by
thing?
the Trump government.
These
And although
fucking
it's supposed to be
losers, bro.
nonpartisan, the bodies that adjudicate this,
These
they're going
motherfucking
to
losers,
listen to the
man.
influence of President Trump. So really,
Oh
it
my
all comes
fucking
down
god.
to how Trump feels about
Oh my
this. And let's
god.
think a little bit about the calculus
I
here.
can't believe this, dude. It's the
When
same fucking
Skydance
shit
and the Ellison
as
family
at the
acquired
office, bro.
CBS, the first thing they did is they hired Barry Weiss to be the editor-in-chief.
Oh
Mary
my
Weiss
fucking
is a
god, dude.
lesbian. She is self-identified as a liberal. That being said, she has center-right politics. Her website, The Free Press, is a center-right website. And as soon as they took over CBS, they started making moves that would satisfy the presidency. Now, Warner Brothers owns CNN. Trump hates CNN. So the Ellisons are telling Trump, as a matter of fact, they called him up today. Larry Ellison called up
Man, I don't know where the fucking front door is at, bro.
If Netflix acquires Warner Brothers, this is bad for competition in the media. They have also
Can you let the
told
motherfucker
Trump,
in, bro?
if we acquire CNN, we're going to make it more Trump-friendly. We're going to make it more conservative. So if you're Trump, you get to decide. Does Netflix get Warner Brothers and CNN, or does Skydance Paramount and Larry Ellison? Well, Larry Ellison is a pro-Israel Jew. Larry Ellison is a Republican booster. And Larry Ellison has promised Trump that if Trump allows Skydance Paramount to acquire Warner Brothers, that they will put a pro-Trump or a more moderate person in charge of CNN. This is the lobbying that goes on behind the scenes. But it doesn't begin and end there.
How do you let someone in if someone's trying to budget?
Larry Ellison is making an appeal to President Trump.
Stupid.
He's also making an appeal to
I'm
the
motherfucking
shareholders
pissed
of Warner Brothers.
about the, oh my
because,
god,
of course,
bro.
Warner
Holy
Brothers
shit.
is a publicly traded company.
Fuck, dude.
So Larry Ellison is taking the offer to the shareholders and telling them that the leadership of Warner Brothers is making a mistake.
Wide body.
That they're going to offer more money. The shareholders will make more profits if they accept the offer from Skydance Paramount. They're trying to get the shareholders to vote in favor of that deal. And again, what would that look like? If the Ellisons are successful,
let's do it.
they will own Skydance Production. They will own Paramount Global, which includes all those aforementioned properties, including CBS. And then on top of that, they will own Warner Brothers Studios, HBO, HBO Max, CNN, VH1. They'll own HGTV, Discovery Plus, the Discovery Channel. The list is endless. And on top of all that, they're going to own TikTok. Now, that is by definition Jewish media. By definition, Larry Ellison, his son David Ellison, are Jewish.
I mean, I'm past, but it is
That's
what it is.
they
You gotta
are
move.
ethnically.
You gotta move forward, bro.
In terms of their religion, they're ethnically Jewish. That is how they identify. They identify as proudly secular Jewish. And they're so proudly and so unashamedly and so self-identifiably
I'm fucking
Jewish
pissed, bro.
that they are extremely pro-Israel